action. I've got my coffee. I've got my piano. I've got my notes. Oh, can I say fuck? Yes, you can I say it again and again and again? Because there's like fucks all throughout the songs. Hooray!
Hi, welcome to the 13th floor. I'm Marty Duda, and today we have with us Amanda Palmer.
Hello.
Amazing. How you doing?
Ooh,
That's a loaded question, isn't it?
I'm pretty good. I'm so happy to be back here.
Well, I was wondering if you were. I mean, is
Really?
it mixed feelings? Because stuff happens when you come to New Zealand.
I know. I feel like a strange harbinger.
There's been like earthquakes and funerals and pandemics, all the stuff.
Yeah, I had a week, unlike any week, about 2 weeks ago. I had 3 people in my life just die.
Right.
And one of them is from Waiheke,
Right.
Susie Newborn, who was a really important person in my life there, became one of my best pals on the island, watched my kid, moved into my house with me. So that was pretty shocking. But also, I mean, for anyone who follows my work, which is like a massive mashup of the light and the dark.
Yes.
To land here and get to take my kid to a tangi, like in the marae on Waiheke, and to not have to just text all of my friends, sadly, from New York and say, I'm so sorry about Susie, I wish I could be there. We got to be there.
Yeah.
We got to be with her and her family. And Ash, my son, my 8-year-old, got to see her body and hang out with the whole community. And I was just like, man, what an honor. And so, really bad and really great.
Right. And
all at the same time.
And on top of all that, you just come off of doing the Dresden Dolls thing. New Year's Eve, you're rocking out, and now, how do you do that? Do you have to like shut something off and shut something on again?
I'm looking at my touring assistant for an answer. I don't know how I fucking do it. I got the news about Susie that morning.
Right.
In where were we? Berkeley, California. Sitting at a cafe table, and I opened up my phone. Michael knows Susie because he traveled with me to he came to Waiheke last year with me. He's been here twice. He and Susie have driven all around the island together, and we just sat there at the table going like, how are we going to process this? We have to be at the venue in a half an hour. We have to set up a New Year's show, like whatever, thousands of people. You just do your fucking job.
Yep.
And I feel like the lucky one, as a musician, as a performer, I'm not Celine Dion. Not that I love Celine Dion, but there are performers who can't get on stage and say, I'm going to make the whole show tonight about my grief. And a Dresden Dolls show is actually a little tighter and more scripted.
Sure.
Or not scripted, but but man, like, the good answer to that question is when I showed up in New Zealand, March 2020, and had 4 shows at the end of an 80-date world tour. And it was Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch. Or Auckland, Christchurch, Wellington. And I had this 4-hour scripted show about miscarriage and grief and abortion and birth and like all these things. And I got to Auckland. And if you can remember, like March 16th,
I do.
I was like, fuck this show. I'm not doing the script. I'm just going to sit here with the audience. And the show almost got canceled. And I was like, picked up the mic and was like, how's everybody doing?
Yeah.
I'm not okay. Are you okay? What can I do for you? Does anyone want to talk about anything? And what do you want to hear? Because I'm not going to play you 4 hours of abortion and grief songs.
Oh, man.
And like, well, because I get to do that because I'm me. And I feel like there are a lot of bands who can't pivot like that.
Yep.
So my life's work has been kind of digesting life in real time using art. That's kind of what I do. And I think if I'm ever okay, that's why I'm okay.
Gotcha. So now, after all that, you have an EP that you're releasing today as we're speaking, 5 songs that were written over the course of that time. And now you're going on tour to sing those songs. how different of a person are you now than when you were writing and recording those things and living that, whatever it was?
Oh, not that different.
Okay.
I'm still pretty confused.
All right.
I mean, there's some times and places in my life that I never want to re-experience. You couldn't give me all the money in the world to go back and have to be that person experiencing that particular trauma. And April 2020 is one of those times.
Gotcha.
It was by a factor of 100 the hardest thing I've ever done. I was, supposed to go home to New York, spend 6 months recovering from a tour, getting my shit together, really turning into a mother, putting my kid in school. And instead, I found myself in a foreign country in an Airbnb. My marriage ended, my co-parent left, and I just had to be okay and explain the world to a sad 4-year-old.
Right.
And try and make it feel normal. And I really freaked out. It was a heavy lift.
Gotcha.
And these songs grew out of that. I also, in my career, I've become a storyteller of my own life to a small community. And I wanted to use these songs to kind of explain what was happening and how I was feeling. They were like little messages in a bottle that I was chucking out from New Zealand back to the world, to my patrons, to my listeners, going if you want to know how I feel, this will explain more than a blog post.
Okay. Now you are going to explain, because we've recorded these songs here, and you preface each one with a little intro, so we won't go deep into the song. The first song is The Man Who Ate Too Much. So what would you like to say before we hear you intro it?
Just that when I look at this list of songs and I think about all this, I'm actually pretty proud of myself that I didn't just give up and stop writing music completely, because I kind of did. And then after about 3 or 4 months of just listing around and trying to figure out what to do with my kid, trying to figure out how to assemble the broken pieces of my life, trying to figure out where to put Ash, childcare, what a Kiwi supermarket was like, where I could get a car. After the very basics were covered, I kind of tied myself to the mast, and I was like, it doesn't even need to be good, but you need to make some music.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're really going to lose the plot. So I think I might have even told my patrons, I'm going to sit down and write a song and I'm going to record it next week, because if I don't, I'm going to lose so much of my identity. I feel like I've already lost a lot of it. And my Patreon was actually a pretty amazing tool throughout the whole pandemic, because it kept me afloat financially. I was talking with a lot of my other indie musician friends, and they were fucked. They were selling their guitars, selling their pianos, selling their apartments, borrowing money from their families. There was no way to make any fucking money. You couldn't tour, and you could only ask for so much help from your community. And I was lucky. I had set up my Patreon in 2015. So I went to my patrons hat in hand, and I was like, you can leave. I'm pretty fucked here. You're not going to get a ton of art. But I wrote a book about this. I need your help.
Yeah.
I'm really screwed. I'm alone in New Zealand with a kid, and it's all fallen apart. So being able to make actual music and go to Roundhead in Auckland and sit at a piano and say, I'm still real, and I'm the lucky one. I can go into a recording studio without a mask and work with a crew and meet an engineer and get a guest. And so this song was sort of my way of being okay.
Okay, let's give it a listen.
These songs kind of tell the story more or less in order. They're on the EP in the order that I wrote and recorded them. and they tell the story kind of what happened while I was in this country for about 2.5 years. They're snapshots, and it's a record. It's like an old school record it's a record of what happened, at least emotionally, because I went through some really seriously hard shit. And I was just thinking about this. The thing about music and songs, and it's been like this since the dawn of time, they help you remember things that nothing else can really help you remember in the same way. It's why we've been doing songs since the beginning. And I try to keep a journal, and I take a lot of photos on my phone, and I have keepsakes like everyone, but kind of nothing can remind you of something the same way music can, like a smell, like the smell of the kitchen you grew up in, or a favorite person's perfume. And these songs they're like little emotional Polaroids. And I am not on a record label, and I didn't have to write any music while I was here. I was pretty much, I was here at the end of a tour. I was touring in 2019. I had 80 shows around the globe, and I had my last 4 shows in New Zealand. And then I was supposed to be here for 10 days, barely understood or knew anything about this country. And then that was March 2020. And then it all happened. The world went into lockdown. I decided to stay in New Zealand. I called my husband at the time, who was in Melbourne with my son, and they raced over. And we got an Airbnb in a random town I had never heard of called Havelock North. And then everyone in New Zealand laughs because I lived in Havelock North. And then about a month into the lockdown, living in this random Airbnb on a hill, my marriage ended for reasons that had nothing to do with COVID or lockdown. And then my ex left, and we thought that we'd see each other really soon back in New York, but that didn't happen. He wound up trapped in the UK, unable to come back to New Zealand. And then there I was in Havelock North, living with a kid in a house on a hill with no family, one friend that I knew from a long time ago, which is why I locked down there. And I just had to figure out this country. And I also had to figure out who I was and what I was going to do and what I was going to do with this kid. And in the distance, every time we left to go anywhere, we saw Te Mara Peak. And Te Mara Peak is shaped like a sleeping giant. And there's a Maori myth that I heard, the first time I went on a hike with these friends, about the giant who choked on a rock trying to eat through this mountain to get a girl. It's like, and I kind of hate the patriarchy. So I loved this story. And I would look at the peak with ash, and you could see the giant lying there. And Donald Trump was president in my country. Everything was going to hell in a handbasket. My divorce. And Ash, this was he 4? He was either 4 or 5. Asking me all these questions, and I didn't have answers. So this song is kind of about that. Telling my friends that it's strange how many times it's not strange. Now we've spent all summer in the winter on a stingray that was hacked to pieces. And Ash points to the giant in the mountain, and he asks me where his arms is. Another man who ate too much, and women keep grieving numb with the songs they sing. I wanted to get back to New York, and now it isn't looking promising. Faka brought Izzy's old coat, and it fits like a glove. And Aiden put Ash on his back when we went for a walk. And one of these days, I swear I'll get a second for me. Yeah, one of these days, swear to God, I'll get out to the sea. 8,000 miles away, man in a White House refuses to face his own pain. And why should it matter what lives really matter? Why bother to open your heart when there's pussy and fame? Now we've spent our money on the study of an army that relies on terror. And Ash points to the statue of the captain, and he asks me what he's there for. Another man who ate too much, and women keep grieving numb with the songs they sing. I was hoping New York would open up. Now it isn't looking promising. Faka brought Izzy's old coat, and it fits like a glove. And Aiden put Ash on his back when we went for a walk. And Lou gave a history book of New Zealand to me. And today we met somebody nice, and her name is Roisin. I've spent 11 years chasing the summer. Ain't karma a bitch? Now it's endless December, stuck in a house where the post won't deliver, stuck in a book by a paralyzed writer, trying to read to my son by a sliver of hope from a broken lamp. We'll have to pay for it's no kind of life for a kid to grow up in. I guess I'll stop taking these prenatal vitamins, but Christ, what a waste. Maybe someone can use them, 'cause I can't keep having to look at them, look at them, look at them. 8,000 miles away, the man in the house gets a little more broke every day. Who says what's real and what's fake? You've been lying so much for for so long, I don't know what to say. And I keep on telling all my friends it's not that bad, but that depends what bad is. And Ash points to the family in the story, and he asks me where his dad is. Another man who ate too much, and women keep grieving them with the songs they sing. I was hoping that you would open up, and now it isn't looking promising. But Kaya brought Izzy's old coat, and it fits like a glove. And Aiden put Ash on his back when we went for a walk. And Linda let Ash play her pinball and loaned us a car. And Jude showed us the orchard and where all the good apples are. And Izzy keeps bringing her toys that she thinks Ash would like. A mouse, a Moana, a book, and a little white bike. And Lou gave a history book of New Zealand to me. And today after school we'll go over and visit Roisin. And Roisin and her kids made the most beautiful Christmas tree out of driftwood they gathered from her house by the sea. Out of driftwood they gathered from her house by the sea. Maybe I can go swimming near her house by the sea.
All right, we're back here with Amanda Palmer. We're going to listen to the songs that helped you survive your time in New Zealand. So at some point, I mean, you weren't forced to be here for 2 years. You had to make a conscious decision at some point that this was what you were going to do. How did you come about with that decision?
Well, funny you should ask, given the next song. I sort of decided week to week and then month to month. So, you know, in March and April, it was 2020. It was week to week. It's like, are we going to go home next week? Probably not. Maybe we'll go home in 2 weeks. Maybe we'll go home in 3 weeks. You know, the marriage ended. My ex, Neil, went to the UK. He was gone. We never expected that he would be separated from me and the kid for more than a few weeks. It turned into 8 months. And I couldn't explain this to my kid. And it was really like, it was a horrifying decision to have to make, to look at my kid and say, okay, we could go back to New York and you could see your dad, but you'll be in full catastrophic dumpster fire, New York, June, July 2020 lockdown. And every friend I called who had young kids was like, you sound really lonely. Stay in New Zealand. Whatever you do, don't come back here. We're fucked. Our kids are fucked. It's really awful. Stay there. Stay the course. Hold steady. And I was like, I want to come home. I want to, even if I'm just vaguely around the people I know and the things I know and things are fucked up, like, I'm really homesick. I don't understand this place. I don't know anyone. And my friends were all like, do it for your kid.
Right.
Stay. Not everyone agreed with my decision.
I'm sure.
And we won't talk about that.
Right.
And I became addicted to the New York Times app.
Right.
And the COVID numbers. And I listened to Jacinda every day at 2:00. And it was the first time in my life where I was like, I don't know what's going to happen to me. Mm. I don't know when I'm going home. I don't know if I'm going home. I don't and I was just like, I couldn't stop refreshing the feed. And that I know that I was not alone in this. And also, you know, I'm a very internet-y tech person. I've been early days of the internet and a blog and Twitter and all of this. It's not sexy stuff to write songs about.
Right. Yeah. Googling is not
top
of the list.
It's not. But it's a real important part of life's material. Mm-hmm. We spend half our fucking days staring into the screen. We have such an emotional relationship with our phones and our apps and our feeds and the likes and the dislikes and the social networks that create the actual fabric of our life and how we relate to each other. But who wants to hear a song about an app?
Right.
You don't.
Nope.
But I was really upset with the state of things. I was really upset at my inability to not pick up the phone the minute I woke up and go what are the COVID deaths? Has lockdown changed? Am I going home? And I can't play this song without going right back to that Airbnb, right back to that yellow sweater that I bought at Kathmandu because I didn't have any winter clothes, in that bed, in that house, having a panic attack, going I have really lost the plot. New York Times, tell me what's happening to my life. And yeah, I mean, again, this song, it feels like a slow process, but actually really feels like this material, these songs are helping me process what happened. Right. And I'm so fucking glad I took the time to write them, because you can't go back and capture something like that, not with a musical net. Yeah. You can kind of remember it. I can look at the photos from April 2020 and go ooh, that sucked. But music does something different.
Yeah.
It takes me right back there, for better or worse.
Cool. Well, let's check out the Ballad of New York Times.
So I lived in Havelock North for about 10 months. And that was the one song I wrote and recorded. And I came up here, I recorded it at Roundhead Studios in Auckland. My friend back in the States, Jarek Bischoff, put beautiful strings on it. I recorded some water and some rocks in Hawke's Bay, and that went on the, actually Xanthia recorded it, on her, with her mic and whatever. So we made this I had this one song. I was like, if nothing else, I've got this one song I made in New Zealand. And then I moved to Waiheke Island because things were just dragging out and I could see that I was going to be stuck here for a while. So I had put Ash, my son, into school in Hawke's Bay, but now he was turning 6 and he had to start school, and I had to find a new house, and I was like, I'm just going to go to Waiheke. And on Waiheke, I borrowed a piano from someone, moved it into the Airbnb I was living in, and I was getting ideas for songs all the time, but I couldn't really finish any of them. And there's a reason that these songs are all 8 minutes long and easy to play, because I was incapable of really writing anything complicated. And I had gotten this idea for a song to try and capture the feeling of doom scrolling, because everyone I know, especially the parents, got trapped in the phone. And there was this thing about looking at the New York Times app 15 times a day, some kind of oracle, because it was going to actually tell me when I was going to go home. It was the first time that the news was going to so directly affect my life. But it was fucking weird, because it was these are the COVID deaths. This is what's happening in the States. New York is still a dumpster fire. Trump is president. And also the Olympics are happening. It was weird. So this was my attempt to capture mostly what it felt like those first few months while I was in Havelock North, freaking out, dealing with anxiety, like actual panic attacks and insomnia for the first time in my adult life. And I hope the song does it justice. The Ballad of the New York Times. They sell grade A Canadian maple syrup in New Zealand. It's expensive, but I splurge so I can put it on our pancake breakfasts. And sometimes I forget to put the lid on and the ants come into the kitchen of this Airbnb we've been renting for 9 months for a fortune. And sometimes I take a magazine and I escort them 2 by 2 on a little glossy lifeboat to the garden. And sometimes I just create an ant holocaust and kill them all with a paper towel. I don't understand which part of me is kind. I don't understand which part of me can be so goddamn unkind. I don't understand why I can't make up my mind. All I know is that last night I had to go to bed by 5 o'clock. And I took off my necklace and I turned up the heater and I couldn't stop shaking. So I put on a sweater and I read the New York Times on an app on my phone next to my sleeping child, and the headlines hurt my mind. 5,000 dead, Cher got an elephant back into the wild, and the light hit his face and his curly haired head, and I knew I should be reading a good book instead. I can't fit all of humanity into this bed with me. Yesterday I walked by a homeless guy on Queen Street. I gave him $20 and then I went into a cafe, and someone had emailed about a crowdfund from their cousin in Milwaukee whose 7-month-old baby died, and they don't have any money for a funeral for the baby, so they started a GoFundMe, and I fucking deleted the email. I didn't give them any money. And later yesterday, I called my friend in Boston. She's got a 5-year-old boy too, and I asked how they were doing, and she said, "We're really great. We're just coming out of lockdown." And yesterday we finally left the house and went out walking, and I took the kids to the toy store, and I said, "Oh, that's amazing." And she said, "Yeah, it's just kind of weird because the kids had to wear masks." And I was like, "Oh, well, everyone's wearing masks, that's fine." And she said it was also really weird because I took the kids into the toy store, but they couldn't actually touch any of the toys. They could look at them, but they couldn't, put their hands on any of them. But anyway, enough about me. How are you doing in New Zealand? And I didn't want to tell her that I had just taken Ash to a pizza party at a restaurant, and that he had been to a pool party, and that he was touching and playing with all these kids, and that I could take him to a toy store where you could touch the toys, and he never had to wear a mask. And he had just done his first piñata. And I don't understand which part of me is fun. I don't understand which part of me is so goddamn unfun. I guess it makes sense, I'm so tired all the time. All I know is that last night I had to go to bed by 5 o'clock. My necklace, and I turned up the heater, but I couldn't stop shaking, so I put on a sweater should've known better. But I read the New York Times on the app on my phone in the pitch black room, and the headlines hurt my mind. 4 million dead and billionaires are sending shit to the moon, and the light hit his face and his curly haired head, and I knew I should be reading a good book instead. I can't fit all of humanity into this bed with me. Shh. Mama's trying to read. Mama's trying to read. Mama's trying to read.
Okay, we're back here with Amanda Palmer talking about her songs of New Zealand's exciting experience. The language. Let's talk about the language. It's, to me, I've been here 30 years and I'm struggling to say anything that sounds remotely like it should, but it's a very musical sounding language. And you being a musician and you're writing songs with that language all around you, has that affected the way you write the songs or think about the language?
Well, I think as a musician, you hear language a little differently. And I started picking up little bits of te reo here and there. It's actually really interesting coming back is when I realized like, oh, I've collected a good amount of language and concepts without quite noticing. You know, It's not like I have a list.
Yeah.
And Ash too. And we've imported a lot of te reo back to our house. We say a karakia before dinner every night, and we call it a karakia. And we talk about our whānau. And I tell him, like, Mama has to go do her mahi, so, you know. And I love that, like many languages, like German, I'm fluent in German, certainly not in te reo. But I love that there are ideas, concepts expressed by the language that tell you who the speaker is, what is important. The fact that whānau isn't just your immediate nuclear family. The fact that mahi isn't just like the work that you do to get paid money. And I like to think that, you know, these concepts have floated into my kid's consciousness, even if he hasn't become a fluent speaker of te reo. And I actually, I had a meeting with my team when we were discussing what to title this record, because I've been tried to be conscious the whole time I've been here, since it was first explained to me. Before I even landed in the country and I was doing promo for this tour in 2020, this is Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Yep.
And so confusing to Americans. They can't pronounce it.
Nope,
they don't know if it's a town, a city, or a country. They like, and I've explained it quite a number of times, and I thought about titling the album like Songs from Aotearoa, New Zealand, or something like that. And we wound up calling it New Zealand Survival Songs because it just sounded so catchy.
Yep.
And I also ran it by some Kiwis, and they were like, "We're not that precious about it. It's fine."
Yep.
But when I do social media and I talk about the country, I switch it around. I call it Aotearoa, New Zealand. I explain the story to Americans when I'm on stage, when I'm playing these songs. And a song like Faka,
yep.
I stood there and made the same decision. I was like, this is a real fucking weird one. Anyone looking at this on Spotify or iTunes is going to have no idea how to pronounce this.
That's true.
They won't know how to Google it. They won't know how to look this song up. It's going to be like Amanda Palmer's Sad Divorced Forest song. What is it? But in this case, I chose to keep it, to honor it. It was the obvious title for the song. There was no way to pivot unless I wanted to pull a Smiths and call it like sad forest song or something. Yeah, I think there's something also important about, my weird role as this teeny ambassador that I actually didn't realize until I'd been living here for a while. I was like, a lot of Americans don't know fucking anything about this country. They don't even know where it is.
Yep. Well, I remember when I told people we were moving here, they were like, aren't you going to be cold? They thought it was in Scandinavia somewhere, So
yeah.
That's not good.
So not only do people not know much about Terreo, Maori, whatever, but, some of the material here, when I'm touring it, I think it's also important to tell the story of the country, the people, the language, the problems.
Yep.
It's not some perfect place where everyone is vegan and hikes. Like, that was a little bit of my stereotype, but I got here and I was like, there's no fucking vegans. Everyone's eating a sausage all the time.
That is a fact. A pie. What do you think about the pies? I had one today. So.
Yeah, not bad.
And of course, I don't know how much you keep a track of the political scene here in New Zealand. We just had an election.
Oh, I know.
And our new prime minister isn't a big fan of the language, so he's...
Chris, what the fuck?
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, I was trying to explain this to one of my American friends, and I was like, it was as if Obama, and America got together and just made Spanish an official second language, alongside English, because obviously a lot of Spanish-speaking people in America.
Yep.
And then Trump came along and was just like, delete.
Well, there's still time for that. What will you do if he gets reelected?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I will not be happy. And I can tell you, certainly not on behalf of all Americans, because I cannot speak for all Americans, but I can speak for the vast majority of Americans that I know. You're going to see a level of despair that's unprecedented.
Yeah.
Because number one, we could barely handle. And the idea that Donald Trump would be the president a second time is enough to make anyone just want to move to New Zealand.
Anyway, okay, back to the song. So you have some help on this one with Aura Twerkington.
Yeah.
Tell us how that happened.
So I put a call out on my Patreon, on my blog, for a social media helper because I needed some help doing some interneting. And a patron of mine, Nat Torkington, was like, my daughter would actually be really great at this. Their name is Aurelia. They've got a huge Instagram. They're a fan. Maybe I could introduce you. I was like, sure. And then Aura came over to Waiheke. We wound up being fast friends. Aura wound up babysitting Ash.
Right.
And then I found out Aura was an incredible singer and songwriter. And that was right around the time I was writing and recording Faka, and I just brought them in with me into the studio, and that's how that happened. It was just one of those beautiful little full circle
Cool. Well,
things.
we gave her the day off today, but here you are singing the song. So
It works solo.
It works.
It just gets sadder. Those are the happy songs. So I moved to Waiheke, and I spent a lot of time. So I went into the second lockdown, the second big lockdown, Kiwi lockdown, on Waiheke. I walked around the island a lot. I made some amazing friends. I started learning some Terreo. And I started learning more and more about the culture, the place, the people. And I really wanted to write a song about this one place and how it sort of intersected with everything. And the place is a forest preserve called Faka, which I knew the Americans would find hilarious, and even like the local Wahikians find it hilarious. So when I introduced this song in America, because this song is the one song that seems to have made the cut from this little EP into like a full-fledged Dresden Dolls song, because the Dresden Dolls, my band, are also like really slowly working on a new record, and the drums sound amazing on this song. So it's still growing into a new life. Yeah, you walk around and you're sad enough in a place called Faka, and the song just writes itself. I also had to struggle with, like, this is so perfect for like the music nerds watching this. I really struggled about whether or not to title the song Faka because no one can fucking pronounce it. Because no one in America has ever seen a W and an H next to each other pronounced like a F. But I decided to call it Faka, and everyone can just fuck off. Another forest metaphor. You've heard a million before. Confused by everything, I tried a wedding ring. You just cringed and said, what for? And now the whole thing's turned to ash. You tried to cover it with cash. Another falling tree, no one can hear but me. Another suicidal mass. Landing on my doorstep, thanks again. Oh darling, how can I repay you for what you have done? And then you lied to me at fucking Ava, and you sealed it with a kiss. I wanted to live with you, but fucking fuck you. No one on earth could live like this. Another clear-cut load of crap. A few more corpses in the sack. You'll get away with it. It's just the same old shit. This world is shaped to have your back. You said I'm sorry, then you ran and went and did it all again. I'm such a fool, I know. Street smart but gullible. I see the good in everything. A pound of little ball. So sad you could have had it all, but you hate yourself too much to want all that. I'd so much hope that you're broken heart, but you've made your choice and you chose the dark. And so bury you at Faka and have a party with my friends. I'll miss you terribly, but fucking A, fuck me. It feels so good to love again. So I'll bury you at fucking A and have a party with my friends. I'll miss you terribly, but fucking A, fuck me. It feels so good to love again.
Okay, back here at the 13th floor with Amanda Palmer and her New Zealand survival songs. We've got another full song to hear from the EP, which is very exciting. But before we do that, I was just wondering, because you seem very open about everything. You talk about anything. Do you have, and if you put everything in your songs, it feels like, I got to ask you if you have any boundaries internally that you think, oh, no, we got to draw the line there. Or do you edit yourself much?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have to do that.
What
are the departments?
Yeah.
I don't talk about family stuff.
Right.
I can't talk about the details of my divorce.
Right.
And I love talking about my kid, but I want to let him make his own decisions about how much to advertise the good and bad and wonderful and terrible things in his life, because he's 8 and he's making his own story, and I don't. It's not my story to tell.
Must be interesting for him because he's a Kiwi.
He is a Kiwi.
So
you know what he says? He says, because his dad's British.
Yeah.
Obviously. I mean, obviously. His dad's British. His mom's American, and he says, "I'm half British, half American, and all Kiwi."
There you go.
It's adorable. It's his little catchphrase.
Very good. And we all, the TikTok especially is full of Americans talking about what they think is weird about New Zealand and all that. So we don't want to do that. But I'm kind of curious the other way around. When you go back to the States, what do they think of what you're doing over here and what we're doing over here?
What do Americans think of Kiwis?
Yeah.
I think
if they don't, yeah, well, there is that.
I think it doesn't even register. I mean, again, like, I think if there's a stereotype, I think most Americans think it's beautiful.
Right. Well, it is.
They are correct. But most Americans that I've met who've met Kiwis really rate them, like them. Like, Kiwis have a reputation for being friendly and honest and hardworking. And there's no bad stereotype about Kiwis, but get an American started about like the French or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, many Americans I know have never met anyone from this country.
Right.
It's a teeny country.
It is indeed.
So, I mean, I can tell you one thing that really shocked and struck me after spending 2.5 years in this country and landing on a plane, getting in a plane and landing in Los Angeles, having gradually acclimated to this place and this way of being, because you don't really notice, like a frog in boiling water.
Right.
And then you go home. Americans really did seem impolite in public. Like people just bitching at each other, in front of each other, at each other, on a plane, in a train, on a bus, just people being so fucking rude. And I also had to take a good look at myself and be like, am I that person? Have I changed?
Yep. Well, I can't tell you how many times I've been at an airport anywhere in the world, but I hear the American accent and the loud, and you just, now I cringe because it's like, oh, you're just reinforcing all those you're not making us look good, you know?
Yeah, and I also, I mean, it took me a while to figure it out, but being here really held up a real-time reflection to me about just sort of my assumptions about life and how it worked. Mm-hmm. My values came into question. And also my relationship with my own social capital, what it means to have a lot of Instagram followers to a Kiwi, what it means to have a book published and be a rock star, be a celebrity, be someone with influence. Because what I found is that most Kiwis were pretty suspicious of me.
Right.
Like, it isn't like all of a sudden I have power. It's actually kind of a liability to walk into a room of Kiwis and be like, I'm the American who did some things and maybe you've heard about. People are like, so you're probably an asshole.
Right.
So I'm going to stand over here and look at you and like spend a long time deciding whether or not you're an asshole or not.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to get that. And I also already had a problem thinking that everyone in the world is my friend and maybe wants to be. Mm-hmm. So it was extra. It was extra weird. But yeah, I think it would be great if every American could come and spend a couple of years here, just sort of like get.
But not all at one time.
No, not all at one time.
All right,
just like a little program.
Yeah.
A Kiwi 2 years abroad for loud Americans, and then shuttle them back gradually.
All right, one Kiwi we can talk about is Julia Deans. So I got to ask you, were you familiar with Fur Patrol?
No, I had never heard of Julia Deans until Jamie McPhail.
Good old Jamie.
Yeah, introduced me to her by bringing her to Teawanga.
Right.
And what an incredible songwriter and what an incredible voice.
Right.
I mean, just physically, what an incredible voice. So yeah, we vibed immediately.
And so Little Island is the result of that vibe. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you need more to tell us than you do at the preface of the performance? Nah. Okay, well then let's listen to it.
So the thing about this record is that it's a record of things that happened. And it's also kind of like a thank you note to my friends that I made here, kind of to the country itself. And I name-checked some people in The Man Who Ate Too Much, like there's Kaya and there's Aiden and Lou and Linda Roshin, and all these people were real. All these people helped me a lot and helped me take care of my kid, loaned me things, showed me how things worked. And there was one person I met who not only made his way into the song, but kind of became a really important part of my life and also this record. It's this guy, Jamie McPhail. You know Jamie? Jamie is like a favorite of musicians because he is a passionate, dedicated, totally no bullshit music lover and helper and friend to many musicians and bands. And he runs this thing called the Small Hall Sessions. And when I moved to this little Airbnb in Havelock North, my landlords, Nick and Jude, they did a thing that was very Kiwi. They were like, well, of course you know Jamie. And I was like, I don't fucking know anyone. I'm an American who just came out of lockdown. Like, I don't know anyone. I know you, and I know Kaya. And Nick introduced me to Jamie, who invited me to my first concert experience in Hawke's Bay, which was going to like the middle of nowhere, Teawanga, to just like someone's house and practically like a garage with a bunch of chairs and a carpet on the wall. And in this teeny little room that fit like 45 people, I saw Julia Deans playing, and I saw Reb Fountain playing, and I saw Anna Coddington, and I met all these people and became pals with them. And then Jamie tour managed me. I decided to finally, like, after about a year of living here, I decided to do a teeny little tour, and I took Jamie as my tour manager. And we drove around with Ash, and he told me stories about his family, about the history. You know, he was 4th generation Kiwi, Hawke's Bay farm family. He taught Ash how to speak Kiwi. Ash really had to go to the bathroom one day, and Jamie taught Ash how to say, "Hey, Jeff, can I use your dunny?" And Jamie taught me a lot. So he's in this song, and it's important for me to tell you that I got Jamie's permission to use his likeness in the song. Because I called him after I finished it, and I was like, I have good and bad news. Like, I wrote a song about you. I had to confabulate some of the information. Is it okay? He was like, yeah, it's good. And then Julia Deans, who I'd met, sings on the song on the record and is going to be touring with me, which is great. So it all came full circle. And when I've played this song, I've played it a couple of times to Americans. I have to explain 2 things about the song, so that they understand what things mean. I have to explain that the Mongrel Mob is a gang, because no one's ever heard of the Mongrel Mob, and it sounds kind of weird in the song. So I'm like, we have the Crips and the Bloods, they have the Mongrel Mob. And I also have to explain that there was a phenomenon happening during COVID where people were saying on Twitter and on the internet and stuff that New Zealand avoided COVID just because it was this teeny little island in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, no, it's because the government did a thing. And also, I was watching Kiwis take real-time offense to being called a little island. And then there were like these superimposed maps that people were putting up where it's like, this is the fucking UK, this is New Zealand. We're actually technically bigger. We don't have as many people, but we're big. And I was like, oh, you guys, you're big. But yeah, this was the last song I wrote while I was living here, and it's the last one on the record, and it's the last one I recorded, and it felt like a good farewell thank you song. But also, you know, my country, America, is a very fucking complicated place, politically, colonially. This place is also pretty complicated. I wanted to be really careful that I didn't paint a picture of this place to my American friends as some perfect place, because I was here long enough to understand that it was not. But it was kind of perfect for, I guess, for the reasons I needed it to be. It was perfect for my kid. It was perfect to feel safe for a while and held by a bunch of randos down at the bottom of the world. Jamie said England, they'd say home. Oh, I owe you, little island, bigger than my mind. Some of us are proud of what we brought here. Some of us are proud of what we left behind. Jamie took me to the family graveyard up near where he grew up on the farm. His little sister died when he was 6 years old, and she was buried there between his dad and mom. Jamie went to gaze into the sunset, and I wandered around wondering what to do. That's when I saw the headstone with the swastika. This mongrel mob guy next to a guy from World War II. Oh, I some of us have got to settle being proud that we got away. That we got
Okay, we're here with Amanda Palmer. We're about at the end of our New Zealand survival songs. You got your You Can Hand.
I do.
So you have the last track on the EP is two prophetic and haunting New Zealand songs played live on the ukulele, which just rolls right off the tongue, obviously.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Anyway, so what do you tell me about the songs, the uke, whatever you feel like there?
I have played the entire record.
Yes, you
I've got to leave something to discover. So go listen. It's basically like, I don't know, a 10-minute track or something, recorded live at Toy Toy in Hastings.
Yep.
Probably a year and a half into my time, maybe a year into my time here. And what's crazy is I wrote this song, this dumb ukulele song in 2009, at the end of a tour, exhausted, kind of as an apology because I had just been in Australia and I had written Map of Tasmania, which is like this dumb song about pubic hair. And I got to the end of the tour and I was in New Zealand, tired, in Wellington, checking my Twitter feed, and someone was like, "Why does Australia get a song?" And I was like, I'm tired, but now I feel bad for this little country. Okay, I'm gonna write a dumb song for New Zealand too. And the song starts like this. It goes, New Zealand, New Zealand, you caught me at the end of tour. My psyche is collapsing and I cannot do this anymore. New Zealand, New Zealand, I wish I could enjoy you more. I wish I had more time to see your cliff sides and your blackened shores. Prophetic, right? But
right.
wait,
there's
so
more.
The bridge, there's like some verses in the middle about how I'm just fucking tired and complaining. And then the bridge goes like this. I shit you not. This is 2009, written in a backstage basement in Wellington. Everything is so beautiful here. The people on Cuba Street drinking their beer. I wish I could stay here and never go home. I wish I could be just like Holly Hunter in the piano and not have to talk to anyone, even though there's nothing technically wrong with my voice, and just play piano and make love to hot local boys. And like, it was funny in 2009, and then I pulled this song out at my Auckland, my like crazy Auckland March 2020 show, and I was like, what? Wouldn't it be funny if I had to stay here for a couple of weeks?
Yeah, be careful what you wish for.
So that night in Auckland, I also played, I was like, I'll give you a little update. And I did Hello Aotearoa. Good evening, kia ora. Updated. I am from a country that's far, far away, and my country's been having a very bad day. There is news of a virus. There are racists and violence. Yes, the crisis and climate's not mild, and our leader's a psychopath child. And now I'm here in Auckland, and now things could get awkward. If the news keeps on going this way, it could be that I'll be forced to stay. And everybody laughed. But as long as I can send for my son and my husband, who are over the Tasman. This was a month before I got divorced. Oh. Yeah, I know.
Oh my God.
Then things won't be that bad then. I think this is a really great place to watch the fall of the human race. We've got fantastic coffee and beer. Yes, if the shit's gonna hit the fan, New Zealand, I think I'll stay here. And everyone went, ah. It's like, it'll be really nice to spend a couple weeks in your fucking country. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yay.
And you know the rest.
Yeah, I do. Well, I think it worked out pretty well, actually. I mean, it's just my point of view. You may feel differently.
I wouldn't change a second of it.
Oh, good.
And I'm not kidding. I wouldn't. My kid feels at home here, as maybe more at home here than he does in the States. And
does he have a little Kiwi accent?
He has a teeny Kiwi accent. And we're both permanent residents now.
Nice one.
Yeah.
That's good to have in your back pocket.
Yeah, it's actually in my front pocket.
Very good.
Ash is here and mine right here.
All righty. Well, thank you for all of that. It's been extremely generous all afternoon doing the songs and doing the talking. It's been amazing.
Tour.
The tour is coming up. Where you got the with the number? It's written down there.
Sunday,
Queenstown.
January 21st in Queenstown. The 24th in Auckland at the Q Theatre. 27th in Wellington. Old St. Paul's, where I've played before. It's beautiful.
Right.
And then I go to Sydney and Melbourne early Feb.
Cool. And then from there, there's a new Dresden Dolls album.
Then there's a new Dresden Dolls record.
It never ends. And you're doing a benefit for
Shane and Sinead.
That's right. That's gonna be
Carnegie Hall.
At Carnegie. Have you ever played Carnegie Hall before?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I've done a benefit there. But this is going to be really special.
Yeah.
Sinead was big for me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, and good luck with everything.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.